No, it's just, he has become a little more happy, though.
Hmm.
But says, you truly believe that this is necessary?
With all of the confidence and single-mindedness that a 12-year-old can muster, Bree strongly nods.
Will then nod slowly and say, well, I suppose we are not without means, then. I owe you this much, yes, and I have feared that something like this suggestion might happen, that they might try to decide your future for you.
Yes, Rosette, you did make mention of that for me. I had thought perhaps to speak to my brother about all of this and convince him of my value to the house. But I do not know of a way to reason with him. I would. I don't even know who to ask.
It says, would that I could send letters on my own. I should swiftly write my brothers and ask them for aid. If they thought that I was in this sort of trouble, I'm sure they would act in some fashion. I could replace your name with mine in the note, and that should arrange some. She says this time.
Bree says, write the letter. I will speak with my uncle about sending it. He might not trust you, but if I tell him something, he may trust his sad, weary, broken niece.
Said, nod slowly. Says, very well then. I shall do so.
I will attempt to think of a way myself, but I do not quite have the same friends that you have.
You know, and say, there are many who. I suppose I do have some friends.
Don't really have much of those, Bree mumbles. And then she looks away. She looks back at Rosette. She narrows her eyes. Wait. Andal?
She looks and says, what?
You, uh, it, wait. I feel as if I have. What's hap? You know, Bree like huffs out like her cheeks, and says,
Set seems confused at the change of topic.
Bree like looks confused as well, like her eyes still narrowed, because she's still concerned about Rosette and confused. And says, uh, don't worry about it. I'm just tired.
Says, all right. You weren't asking me trivia, were you? If he gives you such
No.
tests, I will do what I can to aid you, but it is not my strongest suit.
I I I really do not think he has any interest in speaking with me.
Well, better make it difficult for him then. As when there's someone I don't wish to speak to, I ride.
Hmm. I present challenges of my own, sister. Rosette will, well, Bree will eventually leave Rosette whenever the forest ride ends. She will go back to her room, and no longer like deadlocked into lethargy. She will now patiently wait for something else to happen.
As she basically turns to ride back, Rosette is going to ride further
Okay.
out.
All right.
She will see that some distance behind them there is a horseman who has been following them, perhaps for some time.
Okay.
Rides very quietly, sort of at the edge. He is dressed in what seems to be generally black, perhaps some leather armor, and sort of a long cowl over his face covering it.
All right. Bree is in a, I don't even know what you'd call like the teenager moods. Like as she like
Strange
sees this,
mood.
yes, a strange mood. She'll go to like seclusion, start crafting like in Dwarf Fortress. She'll swivel her head, and then like she'll squint her eyes, and then because she's basically in fuck it mode, she'll wave.
All right. See slight movement from the figure as it continues to ride. Very quietly still, and sort of slowly, not really hurrying a lot. Let's put you over here. This is the forest now.
Okay.
But yeah, the figure will basically ride up to her. She will notice that it has one discernible feature, really, and that is the bone white bow on its sort of slouched over its bag.
Oh. Uh. That's not who Bree thought. The moment like Bree sees the bow, she blinks. She immediately puts pressure on the pony. Pony comes to a halt, and she has that look of childlike wonder on her face.
Uh-huh. The horse, black horse, will ride up slowly. As Rosette basically disappears, having not really heard the horse come. It is moving very slowly, and what sound there might be is sort of deafened out by a lot of crows beginning to caw loudly. Yeah.
Bree's eyes dart nervously to the left and to the right as she starts thinking about all these motherfucking birds that have been around here.
Uh-huh.
And she looks back at the figure.
All right. The figure will remove his hood basically as he rides up to her, looking at her and looking at the birds. She will sort of give her a nod, riding basically up to the side of her, very casually.
Yes. Bree, he has her full attention. The childlike wonder and awe is fully back on her face.
It is indeed a man that she has seen before. He seems to be, he has incredibly pale white skin and very white hair. He has red eyes and a big sort of red birthmark covering one side of his neck and cheek. He looks very seriously at the birds as he says, "Dark wings bring dark words." She looks to my lady of Caladan. He does a sort of a deep forward bow on the horse.
Bree will return it as best she can now that she knows who he is and like the memories are filtering back to her. As I some food perhaps like
He raises an eyebrow and says, "I am not hungry, my lady. That is kind of you to ask. I am seldomly invited anywhere. Would you ride with me, perhaps?"
Bree will her mouth agape, just like fractally nod up and down,
Sure.
and like twist her pony.
Basically turn his horse
Yeah.
off of the beaten path and just ride in between the trees slowly. Slowly enough to have her pony on the next to his horse, basically.
Right. Bree will follow along. Stranger danger isn't really a thing in Westeros, so she doesn't know any better.
Yeah. Those literally the words stranger is very associated with death and danger. So maybe she didn't learn that much about the seven.
No, she missed that one.
He looks down and says, I'm glad that I found you again. Do you remember who I am?
Yes, I remember, particularly from the landed knight with whom I spoke after your departure, our teammate in the Grand Melee.
He nods slowly, contemplatively, and says, yes. Do you know what me being what I am means?
You are a member of the royal line, and if memory serves, you are a bastard who's been legitimized.
So, is that all they say about me in these parts?
I haven't asked about you in these parts, my lord.
Well, I can
You
enlighten
asked
you a
me,
little bit then.
you asked me politely never to bring you up to anyone, and I never have.
I am surprised. And trust me when I say I am rarely surprised. I can inform you then that they say I am a sorcerer. They say I speak to animals, pats his horse, and listens to the dark and ancient words of trees and stars. He looks at the trees through passing. They say that I can tell the future from the falling of a leaf or the howl of a wolf. She looks to basically a leaf falling, though there's no howl of a wolf happening. He shrugs and says, and they're not entirely wrong.
Bree, with that typical, like, child wisdom there, asks, what do you say?
Everyone's saying that they are not entirely wrong. I see, sort of swallows once. It frightens many. I have few allies among the nobility of the realm. My appearance and my actions do not make me an approachable figure. He smiles slightly. To them it might seem strange that an outcast such as myself would find a young girl in the forest and lead her off the trail to speak. But the times are such that this meeting was arranged by more than merely my intention. He looks at you and says, I know I'm in no place to ask this, but I'm going to ask you for your aid in a task or two, depending on your willingness. First, though, I would ask you that you trust me.
Bree bites her lip and replies, it is difficult to offer that trust. Our time together has been not unpleasant, but brief. There are few I actually do trust. I can try.
Do I frighten you?
No, you do not.
A slight smile plays on his lips. He says, a child often has a much more open mind than those who are grown up and stuck in their ways. He looks at her and says, you see things that we just do not. Once, you know, this land, before the big people, such as us, arrived, they say this land was all inhabited by children.
All by Bree looks like she tries to understand the concept.
He nods. They would speak to the land, the beings that lived here, and they would have tales that the land could only tell, for they were so old. The Andals came, we came, and we killed all of them. At least, that is what the stories say. He sort of stops a little bit, writes a little bit, just in silence.
Why did we, the Andals, kill all of these children?
Luke says, because they were different, and we were afraid all was different. They did not fit into the faith of the seven. Their beliefs were strange, and they would not submit to rule of a king, as their worries were ethereal and beyond our understanding at the time. As we had not been in this land for long enough, having merely arrived here to understand much about it. And as I fear that few see what truly lies here.
Bray looks very worried. She looks down at herself.
I'm different. I don't believe in the seven.
Her eyes quickly whip up to Blubber.
You're different. Do you believe in the seven?
Sliden says, perhaps once they had some power, but they are in a strange land. They are not the gods of Westeros. They are the gods of Andalas, on the other side of the sea, from Essos. They were hunted down by the dragons, driven here. The people left, and they brought their seal with them. But I do not believe that they truly brought their gods with them. The gods were abandoned across the sea.
Essos, like Bravos?
He nods and says, yes, smiling slightly. South of Bravos, in fact.
Okay.
Bree nods in that I'll pretend that I completely understand this, but we both know I clearly don't really get this.
Nods and says, the men who have lived here for the longest, the first men, accepted other gods. They came to the land and warred with the children, but learned that they could live side by side. They adapted to this place, rather than force it to adapt to them. They only dwell now in the north. I have visited them many times.
So, you are speaking with me because you desire my help for a task or two, and you trust a child over someone who would be older because children apparently understand things that adults do not?
He nods. Yes. My first request, then, if we come to it, is to know if you have seen anything strange. Since last we spoke, has anything unusual happened? Anything that you just could not forget?
Bree furrows her brows, and she gives a very worried look at Bloodraven and says,
Well, there has been all of the birds. There was a most curious,
and she thought nothing at the time, but she will relay the bird, this healthy supposed bird falling out of the sky, onto the tower right next to her.
He will nod and say, anything else?
There was a, Rosette called it a shadow cat. It was prowling in the countryside and hunting the small folk. I resolved to handle the matter myself. to stop it from hurting my people. I traveled out into the night along with Rosette and a guard. It attempted to ambush us. Rosette and I, primarily me, we killed it. It took considerable time into the night. Afterwards, I have it gravely wounded me. I have had curious dreams. I have and she'll relay the looking out the window, rain running down and seeing the rain forming faces of all sorts of people, high, low, ugly, pretty, young, old, and the faces shattering in the droplets of rain, only for others to form, looking all sunken and starved. And then she will also relay seeing the blue of the Shadow Cat's eyes, as if it possessed some great knowledge or wisdom that Bree didn't care for at the time, but now has really seemed awkward and strange to her.
Yeah, not. Anything else?
Bree slowly shakes her head and says, I do not think, at least in the veins of what you might be interested in, unless you have a curiosity for my house and family politics.
He shakes his head slightly and says, no. These are what we would call omens.
She gives like a very puzzled look and says, "Oh, my uncle has. Oh, this is. Oh, well then, that's. I've learned that's a lowborn thing that people just say to themselves to feel good or bad about something."
Nelson says, it is something you can believe if you wish, but I can tell you this much. The beasts, the plants, the rocks, the wind, they know things that we men have forgotten. And they wish to help us, to tell us these things if we will but listen. Oftentimes, it is only children who will. Looks slightly sorrowful at that. I thank you, though, for telling me what you have seen. And if you wish, he looks at her gravely, I can tell you what I think it means. It might not be the truth.
Bree like looks around at like the trees and the rocks as if expecting like some sort of spirits to come out of them. Gives a worried glance back to Bloodraven. Yes, I will listen.
Yes. Very well then. Take this seriously. The first one, a healthy being falling from a sickness. It is a sign, I should think, that something is coming. That those who feel strong and safe will encounter a threat that they cannot fight with that strength. That small wounds can be infected, will be infected. The next spoke of faces in the rain washed away. All sorts of faces. This means that a threat is coming that does not care for who you are. It will harm all people equally. A beast in the night, prowling and hunting. A story that is surprisingly heard in these times, though no one seems to be willing to connect them or even speak of them. Yes. I think these beasts are trying to help us by doing a very specific thing. He looks at her, and this might be somewhat of a lesson. They are trying to teach us to fear the night, to fear the strangers, to fear being alone, so that we may huddle together, so that we may hide, so that we may prepare ourselves for the terrors that are coming. If you truly defeated this beast, it would seem that it has failed, that it has not given you the fearful experience that it had hoped for.
I fought it with Rosette. I wasn't alone at the time. I was more concerned about helping my family than the creature. It was important, so that it did not cause any more fear, which you say it was trying to. Like Bree, starts to panic. It says, "I never asked to talk with any rocks or trees or animals. You are a sorcerer, and you can read and interpret omens. How am I of any help to you?"
Says, I'm glad that you do wish to help. For all these things are warning us of something to come, and I believe that you could do something to perhaps aid in stopping this thing from coming to pass.
But why are these omens happening to me? There's an entire Westeros full of children and sorcerers and omens and children up north.
Not. Omens happen, and whoever seems to be around will understand them, or not. How many happen will usually depend on the threat at hand. That you have encountered 3 would suggest that the threat is very real. There is such a thing known as destiny, Erickson says, and these are the ways in which it can be understood.
Bree's panic has slightly abated, but her childlike wonder and awe and basically terror are on her face. She doesn't know whether she should try to punch this man or try to ride as fast as she can from this man or plead for mercy.
The task then that I would ask you, and he sort of stops his horse, looking at her very seriously, and this perhaps will answer as to you why I do not have many friends. There's a man that I've been foiling, and he might soon arrive here and ask for shelter. When he does, I would wish you to give it to him, to let him under your roof, to give him bread and salt, to swear you are true lords. He will ask you to join his ways, and I think you should. Then, once he sleeps, secure in the knowledge that you are indeed true, I want you to kill him. You will know him by his golden armor and sigils, and he goes by the name of Bittersteel. If you do this, you will have done much for a war that is to come. Not a mere war between men, to discuss a bit, but a war for the existence of men. Do this, and I shall walk the wall with you myself. Do this, and you will have saved the realm from a potentially terrible fate.
Bree is after the the half moon that she's had too far gone to even like to do like anything resembling like a skill check on this man. Bree in that childlike awe and terror says, "Golden armor, bitter steel, golden foiling. Was he? Did we fight him in the grand melee?"
Looks and says, I think so.
Huh.
Had he won, perhaps then he would have delivered his message. The fight was not fair. But fairness is not something that really exists. Neither is honor. What exists are the consequences of actions. Something can be dishonorable, yet be the right thing to do. And a man who would rather swear to honor than to what is right is not a good man. He's a dangerous man. He says, if you can end this with a knife in the dark, he says, then that is the honorable and good thing to do.
He
is not to be underestimated. He will not let his guard down easily.
I would try to swear to him, but I'm just look at me. How could I win over one such as him? I cannot speak for any of my household at all. How can I convince them without telling them who you are?
I saw what you did. You fought well. And you have a sense of destiny around you. I believe you can do this if you truly want to. If not, I shall try to find another chance. Fate is fickle. He may not even show up. So, but if he does, remember my words. Think of them. And I think if you give them real contemplation, the dreams you suffer might just disappear. For it seems that now you are afraid.
Bree is most certainly that. More so confused than afraid. Her like brows are twitching and her skin is pulsing as she's trying to comprehend the situation.
He will give her a bow of his head and say, look around and says, now, the sun. I cannot bear it for too long. Frowns slightly and says, as he pulls his hood up basically over his head once more, that I have many places to be. She looks at the birds. There are sadly few who can hear the wind as I do. He looks to Bree, says, hopefully, though, I might have found someone who is willing to do something. If I may perhaps, in thanking you for this, do something for you in return. She looks at her. Is there any knowledge or wish that you would require or want from me in return for this task?
Bree, still in panic, confused mode, says, I don't even know what I could ask of you right now. It's if
if I end up doing this, then we can talk about that then, all right?
He gives a slight smile and says, "If only it were so simple. But very well then. This will not be the last time we speak." He will sort of bow his head and say, "Remember that the world can hear you, and that there are those who can hear them." She looks at the trees, the rocks, the crows, says, "I will take my departure then."